Hi, my name is Joanne from 123stitch.com. I have been doing cross stitch and embroidery for a very long time, but I'm always amazed that I'm still learning new things. I love talking to other stitchers, and I frequently learn new tips, a new way to do something, or learn about a new product. It hasn't been that long since I learned how to do the loop start, and that was a huge game changer. So today I thought I would share my top tips for cross stitch and embroidery. Now, I have a lot more than 5, but I'm going to limit myself today. So whether you are brand new to cross stitch and embroidery or you are a seasoned stitcher, I hope you learned something new today. Before we get started though, please go down below and make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Okay, tip number 1, make a working copy. Go ahead and make a copy of your pattern. You can cross off the stitches as you go. You can make any notes on the paper that you want. If you lose this, you still have the original and can make another copy. When you are done stitching though, make sure you throw your copy away. You still have your original, you can use it to make another one, or you can give it to a friend. So that's my number 1 tip. Tip number 2 is to use a needle minder. Needle minders are these cute little magnets. It usually has a decorative part on the front with a magnet on the back and a second magnet that you put on the back of your fabric. So then you can move it around. What I use it for is to park my needle. It's always going, because it's magnetic, it's going to hold my needle in place. Now, I used to lose my needle all the time. I would either put it in the fabric on the edge, or worse yet, I would just lay it down anywhere and walk away. So needless to say, I was always losing needles. Now I have a needle minder always, and I consciously say to myself, when I get up, I say, park your needle. It's silly, but it works, and I lose a lot less needles that way. I have 2 dogs now, so I really want to be sure I find the needle before they do. So this has helped a lot. I rarely lose a needle anymore. Now you can move this to wherever works for you. Another reason I use a needle minder is I like to have it always in the same place. I put it in the upper left-hand corner, which works well for me. I'm right-handed, and that seems to be a good spot for me. But the reason I put it there is so I always know where the top is. When you first start stitching, sometimes you can't tell, when you walk away and come back, you can't tell which was the top, which way was I going. So if I know where the top is, I can always read my pattern and continue on. Now, if you don't like it on your fabric, or you have a smaller hoop and it's just in the way, you can always just set it on a table or something metallic next to you. It can just sit on the table. It'll hold your magnet whether it's on a metallic surface or not. So just if you want it out of your way, fine, as long as you have a good place to set your needle down. Another way you can use it is on a metal stand like this one. I use it to sometimes hold my pattern in place, or they can even hold your scissors. So that's kind of nice. And needle minders are very collectible. They come in all kinds of sizes and styles. So sometimes people will pick one that matches the product they're working on, the season, the holiday, anything. They're kind of fun to have, plus they're super practical. So use a needle minder. Okay, tip number 3 is to change the pattern if you want. Just because a pattern says it was stitched on a certain fabric with a certain thread doesn't mean that's what you have to do. Say it calls for 40 count linen and you only stitch on 16 count Aida. Not a problem, just change it out. The only thing I would caution that you do is to make sure you have the right size fabric. And to do that, we have some fabric calculators on our website. I'll go ahead and link those down below. But basically, you can just put in the stitch count of your pattern. How many stitches high, how many stitches wide, and what count fabric do you want to stitch on. It's going to tell you your new design size and your new fabric size, so you'll be all set. I have a lot of fabric at home, and I rarely have exactly what the pattern called for. So I always change it out, pretty much. If I don't like the count, I'll change what count it is. Or if I have a different color, I'll use that. I'll lay my threads on top, and if they still look good, great. If something is a little off, maybe I have a lighter fabric and now the lighter shades don't show up as much, I'll just change those out to something that's a little darker. So instead of a light tan, I'll go to a little darker brown. So you can do whatever you want. Cross stitch is meant to be fun. You're meant to enjoy it. So don't be afraid to change the pattern all you want. The same thing goes for if it calls for over-dyed floss, all over-dyed floss, for instance, Weeks Dye Works. which costs more than DMC. The advantage of Weeks Dye Works and other overdyes are you'll see a variegation in the pattern sometimes. So a block stitch will have color shading, which is nice, but sometimes the pattern will call for all overdyed, and it'll just be a couple of stitches of one color where you're really not going to see that variegation. In that case, use the DMC conversion if you want. A lot of patterns will have the overdyed floss with the DMC conversion listed. If it does not, we do have some thread conversion charts on our site, and also I'll have a link to those down below. So the bottom line is, don't be afraid to change out anything you want. If you don't like the fabric color, change the color. If you don't like the count, change the count. And change the threads if you want. You can do whatever you want. It's meant to be enjoyable, and it's meant to be your own creation with the designer's help. I have often omitted something from a pattern too. For instance, I had a pattern that had a really intricate border. Maybe not so intricate, but it looked like it was going to take me a long time to do, and I didn't really like it anyway. So I just left it off. No problem. So don't be afraid to change your pattern if you want. Okay, tip number 4 is to try tramming when you're stitching black thread on a white cloth. Now I'll explain what tramming is in a second, but first of all, the problem. The problem is I have used 2 strands of black floss on this 14 count Aida, and you can really see the white fabric showing through. You can try doing a 3rd strand, but generally it doesn't help a whole lot. And I just don't like that look. I want a solid block of color, not lots of white showing through. So here's what we do. Tramming is basically a way of laying a thread across the top of the rows of your stitching, and then you cross stitch on top of it. So it creates that little extra layer of color. So the way I like to start it off is to go ahead and do a row of half stitches first. And I do that for 2 reasons. First, so I can anchor my floss, and second, so I can see how far I need to go when I'm making my lines. Now, you do at this point, if you're using Aida, you're going to want a sharp tip needle, a chenille needle, so you can pierce the fabric, because we're going to be making a hole in the middle of we're going to be piercing the fabric between the 2 holes. So if you're using an Evenweave, that's easier, but on an Aida, you're going to need to have a sharp tip needle. So I'm bringing my needle up between the 2 holes of the first row. Now I'm going to run my needle underneath the stitches on top here. I have my finger on the back side to kind of push the fabric up to help me along. So once I've pulled that through the top, I'm going to go back down into the fabric between the 2 holes again. And then we're going to repeat that for all the rows that we need it. Second one. Now, tramming works on any type of fabric. I find that I need it most often on Aida, but you can do it on an Evenweave as well if you're not getting the coverage that you like. And it doesn't have to be black thread. It could be any dark colored thread on a lighter colored fabric. You're going to run into that problem. So it's a useful tool to have. I think we need 1 more row here. Okay, there's our last row. So now we have our lines down for the tramming. Now we can just continue to stitch normally. Now at this point, you would change your needle back to the tapestry needle. I'm just going to do a few stitches here so you can see. I'm going to do my half stitches across and then complete the X all the way back, all the way up to the top. And then it's going to look like this. This is the one where I didn't do anything, just stitch with 2 strands of floss. And this one, I used the tramming. And you can obviously see the difference. This one is a solid block of color. To me, I like the look of this a lot better than that one. Now, when you're doing those tramming lines, you can do them horizontally like I did, or you can do them vertically if you like that better. And if you've already stitched this and don't like it and don't want to rip it all out and start over, you can do the tramming afterwards. What I would do though is go with a small needle. Use like a size 28 needle. Make sure it's the chenille needle, and then you bring your thread up just like we did before. Go under the threads on top and then back down again. You have to have that smaller needle to fit under the stitches now. I find that harder to do, so I like to do it ahead of time, but it does work afterwards as well. All right, tip number 5 is to use a full cross stitch every 10th stitch. Now that's kind of an awkward way of saying, if you have a long row of cross stitching you need to do, a big old long row of one color, you keep losing count. At least I do. This is 40 stitches, so I lose count. So here's the way I like to do it now to make counting easier. I'll do 9 half stitches and then 1 full stitch. 9 half stitches, 1 full stitch. 9 full half stitches, 1 full. So now I can easily count 10, 20, 30, 40. It's a simple little thing, but it makes counting so much easier. Okay, I just thought of something else, so I have a bonus tip for you. Always have something next to you to put your scrap thread in. When I stitch, I tend to end up with little bits and pieces of floss everywhere. My intention is to put it on the table next to me in a nice little pile, but the truth is it falls on the floor, it gets stuck on my clothing, I get up and walk around, and then I have thread all over the house. So now I use this, and this is the Gypsy Quilter Bitty Buddy. It's just a nice little garbage can. It's got a big opening. I could set it right next to me, and now it's easy to throw my thread in there. No excuse for putting it anywhere but in there. When I'm done for the day, I empty it out, and then the nice thing about this is it squishes up, and then it's got this little elastic that goes around it. Now it's nice and neat, and I can put it in my project bag, take it out next time I stitch. So you don't have to use this, but have something that you always put your thread scraps in, and then you'll have a nice, neat work area. So those were some of my favorite tips, but now I want to hear from you. Tell us about some of your favorite cross stitch and embroidery tips in the comment section below. Something you learned a long time ago, something you just found out about, some new product. Whatever it is, I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching today. I really appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe to our channel too. I'll see you again soon.